Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Strategy Game Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Shippey, and today we're going to be talking about family. Our Seen, Known, and Heard series has been moving along, and I know we've been talking a lot about the people in your life and how to see, know, and hear them a little bit more, and what that can do for us and what that can do for others around us. And we have to include family in that. And this episode was really just a culmination of reflection on just obviously my own family experiences, but then also just walking through family experiences with others. And family can be really hard. They can be some of the hardest people to see, know, and hear because they're the closest to you, and it feels the most emotional. It can be the most triggering. They can get under your skin very often. And so even if we are to take in a look from a family member, or they use a certain tone of voice, or they insinuate something that can just set us off so easily, right? And so why is that? Because we spend or have spent collectively over our lives the most time with them over the years. And so they know every part of us. They know the good parts, they know the bad parts, they know the uncomfortable parts. And when that happens, patterns develop, right, over time. And so there can be healthy patterns and healthy rhythms of operating. And then there can also be unhealthy patterns and rhythms of operating. And what happens there, the hard part of that is that our wounds can accumulate. So they can build up and they can stack on top of each other over time. And so each time that repeated pattern or wound resurfaces, it cuts deeper. And so years of hurt or struggle can be associated with family relationships. And this line really came to me as I was writing the book. Deep ruts can form deep cuts that expose woundedness. I'm going to say it one more time. Deep ruts can expose or can form deep cuts that expose our woundedness. So it can feel like if we're going to try to see, know, or hear our family, it can feel scary. What are we going to dig up? That can feel like opening up Pandora's box, right? What are we going to have to face? What are we going to have to uncover that maybe we hadn't seen, or something that we had blocked previously? So what's the point? Why do we need to do it? Freedom. Freedom for us, and freedom even for them, even if we don't end up having conversations with them. And I'll get into that. But I really believe that when we release someone, even if it's not a conversation face to face with them, they can sense it, and it shifts the dynamic of the relationship. So it also gives us the opportunity to learn why we are the way we are, and to figure out what we want to bring with us from our family line, and what we don't want to bring with us, what we want to be intentional about cutting off and saying, hey, it stops here with this generation. I am not carrying that into a future generation. So there's great power in taking some time to see, know, and hear our families. We can look at this from a generational line perspective. As I talked about, we can look at kind of the patterns and the trends of our family lines, both the good and the bad. But there's also things that we can look at, the triggers that are really bothering us, that are getting to us currently. And so if we can get to a place where we can release that pain, and we can speak or we can receive forgiveness, that doesn't mean necessarily reconciliation. We can understand ourselves more. And it's almost like we make friends with that tension. We accept and embrace that tension and kind of what has happened. Not that we are saying that what has happened has been okay if there have been difficult parts, but what we say is, I'm not going to carry it with me. Like, picture yourself strapping on a backpack full of cinder blocks and trying to carry it around all day. When we carry around our woundedness, or baggage, or unforgiveness, anger, trauma, that's what it can feel like weighing us down every day. Whether we recognize it or not, it comes out in different ways. So what's great about this process is that it gives a voice to the things that we've always maybe known or sensed, but haven't known why. So it can give us clarity on, oh, this is what happened. This is why I am the way I am. This is why this is a trigger for me, right? And so there's freedom in recognizing that why. There's freedom in calling out the things that have made us who we are, the good and the bad things. And then when we're able to work through those, we can really see, know, and hear our families with a different love that can replace judgment. Because we can say, hey, it's not my job ultimately to judge, and I can get the space that I need to process this, right? And I can set healthy boundaries that I need to. And even if it looks like loving someone from afar, that might communicate that we've received healing. And so what would it look like for you, if you think about this, to really understand your family? So as you're hearing me talk, what things are coming up for you? And I want you to just let them come up in a safe space, because you're in a safe space right now. It's just me, and I can't talk back to you, and you with yourself, nobody else. And so as you think through that, what do you see generationally? Certain patterns might come up. Some you might not have even uncovered, but you might sense. Maybe there's some questions you need to ask to get clarity and understanding for yourself so that you can get healing. Family patterns and culture. Maybe there's things that come up like, hey, I see myself repeating this pattern and I don't like it. You get to change that. That's the great part about this. Personality, maybe there are certain personality traits that are great that you really love and appreciate. Take a minute, take some time to call those out. And hey, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that, my mom or dad or sister, or brother or grandparent was this way, because I see this now in myself and I like it. I like that part of myself, and then there's also the hard parts of it. So just really recognizing and understanding is just the first step. It's kind of just uncovering these things with ourselves in that safe space is the start of this journey. And just letting ourselves really call out maybe any codependency that we feel in family relationships, and just letting it go. And as always, with a lot of the things that we're talking about here and seeing and hearing and knowing others, the most important part of this is the realization that we can't control others no matter how hard we try, and we can't make other people change. So really just surrendering in that way and accepting that is the first step to finding freedom for ourselves. And so, but yet it's important to acknowledge the struggle. And so, family, the history can be one of the hardest parts. That's why we might have foggy glasses on when we go to see our family. I know for me, some of my family, even my kids, right, can be some of the hardest people to see, know, and hear for me, because I feel like it's too clouded by the emotions that come up, the different triggers, the repeated patterns that we go through, right? Those things. And so giving yourself the space and outside counsel to talk through it and hear others' perspectives about what they see, those safe people or trusted counselors can help you remove those foggy glasses, take off your glasses and clean them and put them back on to say, okay, I'm not now viewing this through the lens of, here we go again. I'm viewing this through the lens of, I can see this clearly now, more objectively than I could before. And so that's the place that is really great to get to, because then we can have the freedom to work through it, to release, to forgive, and just to let that person be who they are, because we can't control them anyway. So the harder we try, the more the worse it seems to get, right? So I was thinking about this analogy. So it's like we're standing on the shore of the beach and we're standing in the sand. And did you ever just like as a kid let the waves come and bury your feet? And so you stand there for hours and try to see how deep you can get into the sand, right? And that's what we want to do when someone else wants to try to change us, to move us. We push harder not to be moved. And so that is what's happening a lot of times in our dynamics, especially with family. Like, I wonder how much time and energy and anger we might have wasted in vain, realizing, wow, I can't change that person anyway, but I can like release them. I can forgive them, right? Even if it's not possible to do that face to face. And so when we can let that go, it gives us just the freedom we need. And they sense it. It's really interesting. I've seen this happen. And it's such a gift. It's such a gift that we can give to others and a gift that we can give to ourselves. And then we can put down the cinder blocks in our backpack and think about what is it that we can take with us that we love from who we are, right? Even if there's a lot of negative emotions associated with our childhood, once we can clear our glasses, get rid of the fog, we can say, I appreciate this, this, and this about my upbringing and generational patterns, family culture, personality, those things. And we get to take those with us along for the ride. So as always, thanks so much for listening in. Check out more at storywork.co, and we'll see you soon.